Hey everybody, this is your host Jeff. I've got just one question for you.
What time is it? Oh, it's time for Poduty and the news. Poduty and the news. The only live news podcast about podcasting from the stage. Poduty and the news. Poduty and the news. The only live news podcast about podcasting from the stage.
The only live news podcast about podcasting from the stage. Very meta, and I've got a very special guest, Rachel Minion, joining me today. Rachel, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. This is awesome.
Well, thank you. It's a one-man show, and I feel like I'm overproducing it at this point. This is Coffee with Poduty in the News. We started this show as a way to celebrate and showcase our live podcast theater here. But during the week, a lot of us work jobs. A lot of us are doing interviews. So we thought, hey, Saturday morning, let's slow it down a bit. Let's have some coffee. Let's talk about what's going on in live podcasting news. And let's have incredible guests like Rachel come on and share the news with us. Tell our story. Tell her story. And that's kind of one of the things we want to do early on here. Let's do a quick introduction. Rachel, where are you calling in from?
I'm calling you from a tiny little town. It's a 700-person town in the middle of Florida called Willaca.
Willaca.
We got one stoplight here.
A true one-stop light town, almost like the first guest we ever had on here is Maria Daniels. Very same situation in the middle of Ohio. I think they just got their first stoplight, and they'd have a coffee shop right on the corner, so it's perfectly placed.
Well, we are right on the St. Johns River, and the best part about this is there's so many different things to do on the river, and restaurants and bars and live music. This is the ultimate place.
Awesome. Well, tell us a little bit about what you do down in Florida.
So I run Rockstar Moon, which is a RevOps organization that helps consultants go kick some butt. Let's get the foundation in place so that they can go soar and do what they do best and get them out of the day-to-day admin, but get systems running that really help them scale so they don't need to add additional people to their team.
It's all about efficiency. I love it. Getting those right strategies in place. You know, every business is different, right? You might have different people in different places, different positions, and sometimes it's like a big jigsaw puzzle. How do you put it all together?
Well, I think the cool part is we have AI now, and we have so many different automations and so many things that could just be an engine for you if you knew how to put it in place. And I lost one of my key employees in June, and believe it or not, my husband challenged me. He said, instead of trying to hire somebody who has all of this company knowledge all of a sudden and can go make things happen for the company, what happens if we just try to automate 80% of her? And after 21 days of a very, very long, no day off experience, she was almost fully automated, and we're running faster and better than ever. So if I can do that in my business in 21 days, what can we do for your business?
Awesome. And if people want to reach out and connect with you, what's the website or best way to do that?
RachelMinion.com.
Well, that's easy. Super easy.
like one of those little yellow people.
I was gonna ask you I didn't want to do that joke because I figured you get that everywhere you go.
Well, there's no way that I ever would have changed my last name to my husband's if that movie wasn't out.
Well, Rachel, we have some incredible stories today. We have Anderson Cooper, Rapid Response, Going with the Grain, and Broadway Takeover. Are you ready to start?
I am. Let's make it happen.
Let's go to that first story. We've got crisis mode, how to win back trust without burning the brand. This might be a great topic for you to jump in on. This comes to us from Fast Company. When your company's reputation is in ashes, do you rebuild or start fresh? At the 2025 Masters of Scale Summit, Rapid Response host Bob Safian sat down with two leaders who walked straight into chaos. Carla Vernon of the Honest Company and Jessica Berman of the National Women's Soccer League. Both inherited organizations shaken by scandal and learned that trust isn't restored with slogans. It's rebuilt through vulnerability, focus, and showing up with real humanity. From union negotiations to cartoon-inspired empathy lessons, their playbooks for transformation prove that transparency and emotional intelligence might be the most underrated business tools of all. And this was the Masters of Scale Summit, and the podcast that we're going to be talking about is the rapid response. And one of the focuses of this podcast is to look at why you would put on an event like this. Why would you bring business owners into an event like this? One is the connections, right? Here we have business owners, they have two great stories about crisis management. And what better way to share that in real time than with an audience full of people who are not only love this podcast, Rapid Response, but probably running their own business, probably looking for their own advice for their own situations. What did you see or take away from this story, Rachel?
Well, what's interesting to me is I came from Ticketmaster. I think Ticketmaster is the most hated company, right? Because they're doing this incredible thing of connecting you with live music, but there's no transparency. And they've been working really hard over the years to be able to restore that transparency. But I don't think that they've done enough. And for a live event company, there hasn't been a live event on the transparency and ticketing or having any type of vulnerability. Or sure, there's blog posts about where ticket fees come from, but let's look at our demographics. Who's going to read a blog post? And who's going to believe it because it's pumped out by company PR versus the alternative of putting somebody up on stage and having that conversation, because it should be one of the most loved entities in the world.
Yeah, Ticketmaster seems to keep trying to be a better company, but then acquires another silo of entertainment, then takes over all the event spaces that the large acts can travel to. Then they contract the large acts. So,
well, that's the Live Nation side. The Ticketmaster side is under the umbrella of Live Nation, right? And as an employee, it's awesome. My first year at Ticketmaster, I went to go see 275 different artists. It's access that we all want and we all crave to those idols that we have, whether it's WWE or NASCAR or NFL or some amazing band that you've been dying to see. It doesn't matter. We just all want that access. And that's what the company in the end provides. And how they get it to us is the most muddled thing. And there's no consumer that will ever understand it.
And this is one of those examples for this event in particular, that transparency, how important that is. And events like this can show a human side to your organization, to your business. You can show the audience, hey, look, we're trying here. We're people. We're trying to do the best we can. Sometimes we make mistakes. Sometimes we get it right. But here's what we're doing, and here's what we're doing to work toward to a better future, a better tomorrow. And I think fans will really appreciate that transparency.
There was a day I was in the office and I was sitting across in Chicago from the War Room. And this is the day Hamilton went on sale. Okay. The level of stress in the office, when you can walk in and all of a sudden you feel like, oh my God, I think I might be having a heart attack. I'm not sure what's happening. Like everyone is that tense. So I go to my office, which has glass on it so I can go see into the War Room. And I am watching this in real time. And I'm thinking to myself, wouldn't it be so cool right now if I had a camera and I'm filming this so we can watch bot takedowns? Because the bots had scooped up so many of the tickets in the beginning, and then there was so much fraud, and then they're re-releasing and they're validating, right? All in real time. And had anyone seen that, the level of comments and nonsense on socials would have ended.
Yeah, it's a never-ending war trying to battle these bots and the ticketing system. I wouldn't ever sleep at night if I had to be in charge.
But I think that's where the vulnerability could come in, especially when we're look at all these people who are behind the scenes trying to make sure that you can get access to go see your favorite things. And we don't ever show that. Had the team shown any part of that and how hard they're working and that they're trying to do the right thing by fans, it would have changed the whole narrative.
Awesome. Let's go to our second story. We're going to an industry where you might not think a podcast would be a place to host one or to have an event. And this one's called Off the Wall: When Podcasts Build Community Brick by Brick. This comes to us from the Fine Home Building channel on YouTube. At the 2025 Fine Home Building Summit, the FHB podcast took the stage for a live episode that quite literally broke down the walls of houses and of podcasting. Hosted by senior editor Patrick McComb and a panel of industry pros, the show invited builders, engineers, and energy experts to share questions straight from the audience about the future of wall assemblies, air quality tools, and explaining mechanicals to clients. Sponsored by Koopman Lumber, this live session turned a niche trade conversation into a masterclass in audience participation, showing that when you put your podcast in front of people who live your content every day, the dialogue gets a whole lot smarter. You want to take this one first, Rachel?
I think one of the coolest things is once we become a fan of content, we just want to know more. We want to know, okay, what does it take to make this happen? How does this next segment go together? How, if I'm thinking about this, what's the right way? And while we see in pieces of content the high levels and some get a little bit deeper, we all have those questions when we are a fan of the content. And that keeps us even more engaged because we want to keep turning in. But once you turn it into something interactive, where now I get to ask the thing that's been bothering me for the last 3 months since I've been following you, it changes the game.
Yeah, and a construction conference, you wouldn't expect to see a podcast pop up. And if you're attending that conference or if it was a home show, you're invested. You may be a contractor. You may work in contracting. You maybe have some sort of role in putting houses together. But now you're at this event, and here's a panel of people who are experts in your industry giving you the ins and outs and what's coming, what's down the road. Are there new laws changing, new zoning requirements? And what a great way to stay updated and be current and relevant in your industry.
It creates fans for life. And I think that's the biggest piece is once you get involved with a podcast that's live, you become part of it. You're there and there's some energy about being live in a live event with all the other people around who have just as much passion as you do. It takes it to a whole new level.
Yeah, that immersion, one of the things that we say is when you listen to a podcast, maybe in your morning commute or just passively in the background, you really feel like you're in the room with those hosts. Now, here's an opportunity at this FHB Summit to be actually in the room. And like you're saying, Rachel, when you see somebody in real time, how they react, how they think about the questions, how they interact with the audience, you can't get that from just listening to this podcast in your earbuds. It's a whole new experience on a whole nother level to really immerse yourself in contracting. And then these 5 guys, they probably feel like your buddies now. You might have a beer after or go get a burger. You feel like you could be best friends with them.
And there's something going from just the guy that's talking in my ear to having a shared moment together. And that makes them feel even more human than anything else that we could do, right? If you walked into them in a coffee shop, you may fangirl a little bit and say, oh, look who it is. But having this experience where you're all in the same room, you're talking the same things, we're all doing this together, that energy there, it just changes the game.
Yeah, I love it. I am so bullish on real-time, in-person events. This is a great way, and this was in an industry that I didn't expect that was going to be doing podcasting. So really wanted to showcase it here this morning on Poduty in the News. Let's go to story number 3. I translated this one, so apologies to anybody in Germany. The first Hamburg podcast night turning local voices into a live stage revolution. This comes to us from Pop64. In Hamburg, Germany, podcasting just went live, literally. The first ever Hamburg podcast night packed the historic Hansa Theater with 5 local shows, each performing in front of an eager crowd of first-time listeners. From comedy to local politics to football, the night turned passive podcast fans into an active community. Some hosts brought guests, others served food. One even grilled the city's education senator live on stage. It was a reminder that podcasting doesn't just belong in studios, it belongs in theaters, cafes, and communities ready to laugh, learn, and connect in real time. And I mean, this is my mantra, basically. I love this event, and to see a bill with 5 events on it, 5 entertainers on it, this is where I see the future of podcasts going. When we talk about like in the 80s, I'm a child of the 80s. There were these things called the Monsters of Rock Tour, and then we had Lollapalooza and the Lilith Fair and the Vans Warped Tour. And as like a band would go and they'd fill an arena, they realized, well, I can't just be the only person on the ticket. If I want to sell more tickets, I got to have an opening act. I got to have a local act. And so as concerts grew through the 80s, they started to add more and more people to the show to sell more and more tickets. And right now we're doing a live show. It's just Rachel and I, and it's just 2 of us. But if we had a night put together and we had 2 or 3 podcasts on there, that might be something on there that somebody might want to come see, just like people wanted to go see these touring heavy metal bands in the 80s. And I love that they're already thinking about that. There was 5 different types of podcasts to really bring in a wide array of people, local people, to come in and watch these podcasts. I thought it was just a great way to bring the community together.
You know, what's interesting, I love that you compare it to the festivals because, you know, growing up in the world of music, it's my favorite thing. My walls are covered in guitars. There's no question I am a girl who is a fan. But I will tell you, I found all of my favorite bands by being the opening act to a band I really wanted to see. So, for example, Jimmy's Chicken Shack came out and they opened for Violent Femmes. I really want to see Violent Femmes. I think I'm 14 or 15. And so we bought the tickets and we go, and we didn't stop talking about Jimmy's Chicken Shack for 3 years after that. There's a level of awareness that you get because you know you want to go see this that you're already aware of. But you're not going to have enough time, effort, and energy to go find all the other podcasts and things that you should be listening to. I'll give you another example. We bought tickets to go see Guns N' Roses in Chicago when we were living there. And it was their first tour back. We were really excited. They didn't even announce who was opening. We get there early because I want to see the openers. And it's Alice in Chains. I didn't even know that they were back. And we are very involved in the music space. So if I didn't know that, and, you know, then how else was I going to find out that they existed? And so I went to go see the next few tour stops that they had, just of Alice in Chains, which is so cool. And I never would have been able to do that otherwise.
Yeah, just a little opening act, not I mean, one of the biggest acts of the 90s. We're not even going to mention it.
They didn't mention it on the ticket. I had no idea. I didn't even know they were touring.
Yeah. And with your Ticketmaster background, this was I chose this story because of your love of entertainment, and you're telling this great story already about Violent Femmes and Guns N' Roses, and I really do believe, and I wouldn't have opened a theater space like this if I didn't believe that this is the future of podcasting, and just this ability to have a night out, get out of your house for maybe $10, $15 for a night out. You're not doom scrolling on TikTok all night. You're meeting people who think like you and talk like you and have your interests. And it's just something that we really need to get back to build community and to just share our passions with each other. You know,
there's a moment of awareness that is probably the biggest hurdle for every single content provider. Because you have to get to that person. How are you going to get there? You hope that it's a referral. You hope they stumble across you, but that may not necessarily be the case. And so while, yes, we ask our friends, okay, who should I be listening to? That doesn't get you to the podcast that just fits you perfectly. And you have to try so many, right? And then we get stuck. And it's like, we'll watch the same TV series for forever. We'll listen to the same podcast forever and we'll be fans for life. But how do you introduce something new and find the time to do that? And I think being able to have a festival style brings people who love podcasts and live entertainment and everything together into something that they never would have had otherwise.
What better way to celebrate each other and to just have these shared passions, shared experiences? It's, what's the worst case scenario? $10. If you have the worst night of your life, you probably meet 30 new people and you get introduced to 4 or 5 shows. It sounds like a win-win.
Well, it's the same as going to a comedy club. Do you remember way back when you could go to a comedy club in New York and you'd have no idea who was going to come on stage, but you just went. And it introduced you to all those people who were coming up. Or same as if you go in Nashville. We went in Nashville and I took us on a bar crawl. And in one of the bars, we met an artist named Hunter Girl. She was up on stage. This is at noon, right? This isn't at prime time in the evening. She isn't an opening act. This is Hunter Girl before anything happened. And her name stuck out to me. And then you fast forward a few years and she's on American Idol. Now, we already were introduced to her content. So of course we're huge fans because we've seen now this epic transformation. And without that level of awareness in the beginning, would we have cared? Probably not. Will we have followed? Nope. Would I have downloaded any of her music? Nope. But it gave us that amazing warm intro that changed the game for us.
Yeah, it's those little chance encounters throughout your life that you'll find they kind of meander back and through your timeline. That Hunter Girl you met, never heard of before. You had this great lunchtime experience, and you kind of followed the career. Then all of a sudden, boom, pops up on American Idol. Hey, we know that person. It's just amazing how getting out and getting involved in the community in real life, having real life experiences, can really change the trajectory of your life.
It's kind of funny, right? Like if you think about the gamer community, the phrase is go touch grass because we want you to go get outside. And it's almost the same thing with podcasts because we're listening to them when we're working out, when we're driving, when we're commuting, when we're doing this, when we're doing that. But now when you have that moment of live entertainment and an experience together, it completely changes the atmosphere, the energy, and how you're feeling at the moment will immediately change. It's automatically going to be elevated.
Yeah, love it. This type of event, there's things like this. You don't need to have a theater space like we have here. There are bars, coffee shops, restaurants in your hometown that are probably doing live podcasting, probably just somebody who's maybe generating 5 to 10 people in the audience. Imagine the experience you could have so early on as this form of entertainment gets built up. You could go see, I don't want to, the next big podcaster could be in your own hometown. And we were talking Nashville music. The other thing to do in Nashville was drinking. Let's go to our next story, going with the grain, brewing collaboration into community. This comes to us from Crafty Pint on episode 68 of Going with the Grain. 3 Australian pioneers, Wildflower Beer, Organically Greenwood, and Voyager Craft Malt show that collaboration can be as intoxicating as the beer itself. What started as a shared curiosity about regenerative farming and sustainable brewing turned into a friendship that sparked Grainstock, a live event uniting farmers, maltsters, and brewers under one roof. Recorded live at the festival, the conversation flowed from Saltbush Brewing in Belgium to the science of voodoo juice, all served with laughter and community spirit. Together, these makers prove that when creativity meets purpose, collaboration becomes its own kind of craft. And
I love how you wove that in there.
We'll start off this one with Rachel. This type of event. Here's another. We had one with home builders. Here's one with beer crafters and farmers. What were some of your takeaways on this one?
Well, I don't know about you, but if we're in a new town, I love to go to the breweries. there's something about hearing a brewmaster speak about the inspiration behind something, or what it means to them, or where something came from, or what's coming up next, that connects you to that brewery forever. Now, if you're adding in the farmers, you're adding in the maltsters, you're doing all of those things with the brewers, it changes the game for how someone connects to a brand. And I think the coolest part about it is, when you go to a brewery, you normally get, it's just somebody up on stage playing music, if there's a stage, or a guy in a corner. But then you also have the time to go do the tours, or even if you go to a distillery, it's the same thing. And what I truly loved was there's a collaboration that takes it to an exponential level.
Yeah, the fact that three competitors, right, their passion for brewing, and you hear that passion. If you're somebody who loves beer, you love trying different beers, seasonal beers, and beers with they put all kinds of things in beers now. Beer has everything in it. And you hear the brewers, they're talking about why they do this, how they do it, where they're sourcing from. If you're a beer fan, your love of beer just got elevated, just like you're saying, Rachel. Like, it's incredible to immerse yourself in between people who are already passionate about it. They're supporting local farmers. They're brewing very passionately, and they're not even worried about the competition. They're just want to talk about beer. They just want to share their love for beer. And it's kind of that rising tide lifts all ships. If we can all get together with similar people in our community and bring that community together, imagine what you could do for all three of those businesses, and the love and respect that the community would have for each one of those.
It just amplifies that reach, and it creates this mutual momentum that creates for people who are already passionate about something. If you're passionate about craft beer, you are passionate about craft beer. You want to be able to know more about it, see more about it, watch it created, go to the place that it's brewed. You will also go find it in every single store that you can. So as you're walking through your local ABC or liquor store, say, hey, wait a minute. I know about that. You're going to go pick up a case. And it makes it so much more connected to who you are and the things that you know.
And not only that, once you have the case and you know the story behind it, guess what you're going to do when you share that beer with a friend or a family member? You're going to tell that story like, oh, I met the crafter, the guy who makes this. Incredible. The way he sources, the way he brews, the love and passion he puts into it. You're going to share that experience then, and it multiplies. So it's a ripple effect through the community, and just another great event to showcase talent, in real time. And I love that this was three competing crafters, competing brewers that just want to share their story and their love of beer.
And I think, in the end, it's those live experiences that bring us all together. But it's also, if we take a step back, it's the love of beer and brew that just brings us even closer together. And it's just such a great takeaway.
Very much so. Let's go from beer to Broadway. Behind the curtain, Broadway's live podcast takeover comes to us from Variety. Broadway took center stage in podcasting last month as Variety's Stagecraft podcast wrapped its season with a live recording from the Business of Broadway 2025 Breakfast featuring Keanu Reeves, Kristen Chenoweth, Leah Michelle, and more. Together, the stars of Chess, Ragtime, The Queen of Versailles, and Waiting for Godot shared backstage secrets, wild rehearsals, and years of creative evolution that led to opening night. The audience got stories straight from the source, from Keanu and Alex Winter studying Japanese dance for Godot to Chenworth producing her own musical debut. It might be Godot. Is it Godot or Godot?
It's Godot.
Godot. They're going to correct me in the comments. Godot to Chenworth producing her own musical. It was a masterclass in collaboration, creativity, and how live conversation can transform a panel into pure performance. It's Gail Godot and then Godot. I love. So here's obviously Broadway, massive segment of entertainment, but there's all these little events around Broadway where they're showcasing the talent, the behind the scenes stories, and I love that they have a breakfast. There's a breakfast where they're just talking Broadway and they have a recording. They're recording a podcast here, and not B or C listers. There's some A listers on this one.
Mhm. You know, my coolest moment in time is that through a family member, I was introduced to Archer King. Archer King is the one who found James Dean, right? Ron Howard. The list of names with this man is unbelievable. And Broadway was his baby. And one of the things that was really cool is that I got to meet him later in life, and he gave me the behind the scenes of everything. Told me who was fun to work with, who was great. He got us house seats to all the local Broadway shows and told us where we want to be and what shows to go see and the drama behind them or ones that really work well. He gave me a connection that I couldn't have found otherwise. And then it happened. We were invited to his 90th birthday. And this firecracker, I think that's the best way to describe him, opened us up to a whole new world where I'm standing in a corner and I love to talk. I'll chat with anybody, but I am absolutely, totally, utterly starstruck because I'm looking around and I'm seeing all the soap stars that I've known and watched over the last 20 years. And then there's some Broadway stars that are coming in, and I just don't have words. It has changed that level of emotional connection that you have as being a fan.
Again, that immersion, being there. Here's the soap stars from Days of Our Lives or Guiding Light are all in this room that you grew up watching. Sometimes you watch them, with grandma when you're home sick from school. You got the grandma always had to watch her soaps when I was over her house, and you just see these people. You kind of grow up with them, and then all of a sudden, here you are in a room. Here you are getting to see them face to face, and those reactions and seeing people alive and in the moment and just living is so much different than seeing them perform or being on stage. You just get a whole nother different reaction from people and a whole new experience, a whole new way to absorb, who that person is and how they act.
It's something about being in the room where it happens, right? Little nod to Hamilton.
First person point of view. And not a great point of view, a first person point of view, but this is kind of a sad story that turns positive. This is a traditional media play turned podcast, turned back into traditional media. I love this story. I don't wish that you had to make a show out of grief, but Anderson Cooper has really been helping people, turning grief into these connections with some of his fans. And this is from Mike to mainstream, and maybe from mainstream to Mike to mainstream and back. Anderson Cooper turns grief into a live connection. This comes to us from USA Today. And Anderson Cooper's deeply personal podcast, All There Is, a heartfelt exploration of grief, loss, and healing, is stepping out of the earbuds and onto live television. CNN announced that Cooper will host a weekly live version of the show, blending real-time audience interaction with his signature empathy and storytelling. What began as an intimate audio diary has become a movement, proving that vulnerability isn't just good radio, it's powerful television. In an era when authenticity rules, Cooper's evolution from podcaster to live host shows that the next big stage for storytelling might just be the one with a camera pointed right back at the truth. I got through that one, Rachel. I don't know how, but I did. And, we're not going to take away that Anderson Cooper hasn't built a legacy career in television. He hosted a podcast, and now that same legacy is bringing him back to traditional media. And he has a different path than most people, but it is a testament to the power of podcasting, the power of authenticity, and just being one-on-one with people and sharing their own and sharing stories with them.
I think there's some level of being honest and raw that helps us all connect better. When I was diagnosed with cancer, when it was a hard moment, right? As you can imagine, now you're facing life and death, but it went from my phone ringing 24 hours a day. I always had someone calling me, texting me. It just never stopped. My husband used to scream, "Put down the phone," to where after the diagnosis, it went silent. And I think that there is some level of people don't know what to say and they don't know what to do when something terrible happens, unless they've had it happen to them before in some way, shape, or form. So it could be that their mother was diagnosed with cancer and then they know how to speak to you and how to respond. But I think in most cases, someone's going to say, okay, like you've had something terrible happen to you. I don't know what to do. So it's probably best to just leave you alone so you can go through this journey and then I'll see you on the other side. And being able to watch something that is raw and see other people going through it now gives you that shared collective experience. So whatever that episode is that you're watching, it now you have felt it because you've heard on the other side what someone experienced. And now you know how to react. So if someone says to you, hey, I was just diagnosed with cancer. Well, hey, I just saw a podcast on this. Here, here are some resources. Here's what to say. Here's what to do. And just breathe with me.
Yeah, we tend to be so isolated today. We have more technology, more connection than ever, and we're so isolated. A lot of times you end up wallowing in your own grief, or you don't know the right way to seek a solution. Some people are turning to artificial intelligence. They're asking ChatGPT how to deal with their grief, and that may or may not be the best answer. We don't have the data on that yet. If that's the right way to seek help, I would suggest it's probably better to make these real-time connections or seek out shows like this where you can at least experience real emotion from other people. You can at least understand how they're grieving and how they're feeling and how they're handling their emotions in that situation. And I think shows like this are maybe that bridge to, let's get back out of our house. Let's get back into the community. But start here maybe. Start with, how do I handle this emotion? I've never felt this before. What are some other people doing to handle something like this?
And I think there's a very big difference between what we would expect as the sensationalized media that he would have previously reported potentially versus the raw, authentic emotions and how you navigate that story gracefully.
Yeah, this won't be like New Year's Eve with Anderson Cooper. This will be very heartfelt, very emotional, very raw. And it's, I think, just a bridge that's needed for a lot of people to understand and deal with and cope with, just to hear, how my neighbor is dealing with the situation. And it's not only a great show, I think, but a great service and a great way to cope.
Agree. I think the coolest part about it is that no matter what happens in the podcast and how he's navigating the story, I think we all have something to learn from it. And it's growing us emotionally and growing that EQ that we all have and need to have.
Definitely. And that wraps up our stories, and probably the worst transition into the next slide. I've got Poduty shirts for $10 are here at the theater. It sounds ridiculous now. 5 sizes, 4 colors. Stop into the theater and pick up your own Poduty shirt. We have some upcoming shows. The Pittsburgh Podcast Meetup was announced December 6th. If you come in theater in person at 6 p.m., I feed you. We usually have pizza, sandwiches, drinks. The live stream starts at 7 p.m. We do 1 hour of the show live stream where we're doing Q&A, answering your most pressing podcast questions. Tonight, this won't matter because this slide will be out of date by the time the show comes out. But tonight, Tamara is doing her Nailed It Motherhood podcast. It's a live event. Already 20 tickets sold. Her goal was 10, so she has doubled her goal. We'll be doing this show tonight at 6 p.m. We have an improv class coming up with Paul Mattingly, November 18th. It's a free class, 2-hour immersive deep dive into improv. We're thinking of it as a play for podcasters, learning how to be on stage, learning how to react with one another, how to give energy, bring energy back, and push the topics around the stage. So, and if you like the podcast, hey, why don't you join me, Old Jeffers, November 22nd. I'll be doing a 3-hour immersive, everything you wanted to know about podcasting, but you didn't even know what to ask. We'll be talking the basics. What is an RSS feed? What's a podcast even defined as in 2025? All that night, right after my session, Anime on the Allegheny is back. They're going to film their second episode, November 22nd. Tickets just went on sale this morning. We have Davin, Devon, Magwood, the Black Friday comedy special on Black Friday. It's going to be a $10 show. There's 5 comics, 2 hours of live comedy. The first time ever we're going to do comedy live on stage as an entertainment. And we have Audio Fiction Primer with Jessica Sutton coming up December 28th. That's coming up right after the weekend after Christmas. It's a 3-hour immersive audio drama. You can take it in theater or live on stream. You can stream the whole class. And the Tarentum Holiday Spectacular. This is an event I'm putting on here to showcase the businesses of the town that we're located in. We're in Tarentum, Pennsylvania. Every night, December 3rd and 4th, for 2 hours, every 10 minutes, we're going to bring up a new local business and showcase, tell their story, give their links, show what they sell. And we're going to do that for 2 nights straight to help Tarentum business owners finish the year strong. And the Humorous Podcast, last one coming in March. Check the site for details. It's sometime in March. They're coming in from New Hampshire or Connecticut. I got to get all the details because I keep not having it ready for this episode. And I wouldn't be remiss if I didn't turn the stage back over to Rachel and let Rachel, where'd she go? Oh, wait, we lost her. Hey. And Rachel, you knocked it out of the park on this episode. Thank you so much for joining us. One more time, let us know, how can we connect with you, meet with you? I know the website's super easy. Wait till the audience hears this.
It's all rachelminion.com. Come join and connect me. Let's go have a great conversation.
Awesome. Now, see how easy? rachelminion.com. The link is in the show notes. Let's play that theme song.
What time is it? What time is it? Oh, it's time for Poduty and the news. Poduty and the news. The only live news podcast about podcasting from the stage. Poduty and the news. Poduty and the news. The only live news podcast about podcasting from the stage.
Poduty and the news. Rachel, thank you once again. That was a blast. You really brought it on this episode. I love the perspectives. I love that we could tie some live event stories with your Ticketmaster background. And I just had a great time today. Thank you so much.
I had such a blast. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm so grateful.
Awesome. And if you want to hear more about Rachel, in January, we're recording a My Guest Tonight episode. So check it out, myguesttonight.com. You will hear the full Rachel Minion story.